Hello and welcome to Natsukashii, the old anime podcast. Today we're discussing episodes 1 through 10 of the original Cardcaptor Sakura. This was an anime from Studio Madhouse that premiered in April 7th, 1998 and ran until March 21st, 2000, with a grand total of 70 episodes, along with, I believe, 2 movies later to come, and now the currently airing series now. So, what better time than any to start and talk about the OG? Today I am joined by Beamburst.
Hello.
Kamimashita.
Shitsure. Hello.
And Shabes.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
So let's get right into things. There's not a whole lot that needs to be said in terms of plot summary. The show, at least to this point, is pretty episodic.
It's a very cornerstone show for a lot of people. A lot of people grew up with this. How many did you guys grow up with this?
I remember watching the show back when I lived in Dominican Republic. We had a lot of weird stuff that was dubbed in Latin American, so we watch it in Spanish. I remember seeing a few scenes of the show. It was very vague. I don't remember much of the important plot points. I remember just watching the show on TV and oh, this looks pretty cool.
I knew of his existence, but I was a dumb kid, so I thought it was mostly just a girl show, and just it wasn't really on my radar. I think it even was on Toonami or something similar.
Oh, really?
Probably Cartoon Network at some point, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I found out about it later, just when I started getting into anime, just because it's a well-known show. But I don't have any memories of hearing about it as a child, which is a little strange considering my sister for a while was really into anime, and what's the other one? Sailor Moon was her favorite show. So one would think she'd have been into this one too, but surprisingly not.
Yeah, now that you mention it, my own sister was really into Sailor Moon as well, and she bought the VHSs. So I wonder why she never got into Cardcaptor.
I'd probably seen the iconography. I had definitely seen the iconography around probably when I was a kid, but nothing to the effect of seeing it on TV. At least where I was with Foxbox and 4Kids, I think all they had for magical girl shows was Tokyo Mew Mew. We called it Mew Mew Power, and Ojamajo Doremi, which is surprisingly a very critically respected show in deep enough circles. There's a lot of people that call it one of the goats, but there it was on 4Kids. Kind of butchered a bit, and but yeah. But I'd probably seen Cardcaptor Sakura around and seen the name, but it wasn't so much on my radar as much as not a lot of magical girl shows were on my radar to begin with until I got a lot later into the medium. But I've seen a few other magical girl shows beforehand. Some of the more well-respected ones in kind of the more elite circles, Princess Tutu is one of my favorites, and Madoka Magica, but that was my first one, and it wasn't the best one to start with, I guess, because you don't really appreciate the medium for the genre. You don't appreciate the genre of Mahou Shoujo if you start with Madoka, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you say that, because I kind of feel the same way. A while ago, maybe it's going on a year now or so. I was kind of interested in the show, and I watched the first 12 episodes, and then I sort of I lost interest, and it sat in my on hold list forever. Cardcaptor Sakura, that is. But that had been after I'd seen Madoka and Yuki Yuna, both which are a different play on the magical girl genre. And then I see this show, and I'm like, oh, now it makes sense. Why people thought these shows found Madoka Magica to be such a big deal when it came out, the way it plays on the older tropes. It makes a lot more sense if you're familiar with those tropes in the first place.
Yeah, it's like watching One Punch Man, but not having seen any other kind of shonen, Like it's still good, but it's really elevated based on like prior knowledge and context.
Yeah, you have no idea that something is lampooning another thing if you don't know what it's lampooning, I suppose.
I remember I had seen my fair share of Mahou Shoujo shows. I remember back in like middle school, I remember watching Ashita no Naja. That one's like apparently critically acclaimed, even though like when I was young and stupid, I'm like, ah, this looks pretty cool. I know Precure is a pretty like big one. That one's like one of the more known ones, and I remember I used to be really into that one, and it just fell off because I was like, ah, it was too cool for magical girl shows.
But yeah, this particular Cardcaptor Sakura, it plays it very straight. This is the series that got the author Clamp on the map. I think they had done X beforehand. I think that was their only other project. And then they did this. I'm not totally familiar with Clamp. The only Clamp works I've seen is Chobits and technically Code Geass, but you can't really. They only designed the characters for Code Geass. They didn't write it. But I've seen Chobits at least. But I can see why they did pretty well with this one, because this is a very comfy show.
Yeah, it's a formula that works. And oh sure. I was just gonna say like, just right off the bat, like the first episode establishes pretty much everything you need to know, and then it's just sort of is from there a monster of the week, with subtle character developments throughout.
Which is a sign of a good first. It is a great first episode.
Yeah, I was like just gonna mention that like the first episode was like very well like executed. The pacing was like calm. It didn't feel rushed or like you were missing something. Everything was compacted in a nice little package, and then it all like resolved very nicely. Like I felt very happy watching the first episode. It far exceeded my expectations, if I was to be honest.
I thought the
and
first
it's very much
episode
like
was
show don't tell. Like you can clearly get like where it's going, and then, how Sakura is like, and the whole family dynamic in just that one episode.
Definitely.
Yeah, and particularly the first 3 episodes are like just absolutely beautiful. Like they just look amazing. I like the scene of her in the opening.
Top
yeah.
tier. Like
where she's Oh, go.
Sorry. I just like how well produced the show is. Like I didn't even know till right now that it was by Madhouse, and like I was just watching every episode. And I'm like, damn, like the quality of the cells and like the backgrounds and the music, everything is so like very well produced and made. Especially the music. The music makes it feel like it's so grandiose. Like I'm watching like a motion picture or something.
Yeah.
It's very well produced.
One of the things I love is like the choice, like to have her be like roller skating around everywhere, like just the way they convey that feeling of like the lightness just is so effective. It's very aesthetically pleasing and sort of takes you along through the show in a really fun way that establishes right off the bat, yeah, this is gonna be a fun ride. Sit back and enjoy the experience.
And not just aesthetically, this show is kind of to the nines. I was mostly impressed with all the very inventive stuff story-wise that they did. That was all there's a lot of different things about it that are very refreshing, even for, like, we're calling this a pretty standard fare with Magical Girl series, but there's actually a lot of things that you would expect them to do in a Magical Girl show that this show kind of steers you in a different direction. You don't expect it. I think for one thing, and this plays to the aesthetic of the show, it's one of the only Magical Girl shows I know of or can think of where she consistently has different outfits. Like there's no one particular consistent outfit with her. It's for the 10 episodes we saw, I think almost every single one had a different costume in it. like 10 like completely different outfits.
I mean, some of them had
Yeah.
like even more than one.
No,
Like,
right,
when she,
yeah.
like, goes back
exactly.
and stuff.
Yeah. And not only is that refreshing in an aesthetic sense that like you get to see her in all these different outfits, and it makes every episode feel kind of memorable, but it plays into a story thing where, you know, I like the fact that what she's doing isn't necessarily some supernatural like transform whatever. She's wearing these clothes for fun for the most part. Like later in the 10 episodes that we've seen, and I'm sure later in the series, the person that is supplying these clothes to her good friend Tomio, she gives her the right outfit. Like if she's handling like an electric villain, she gives her like
Yeah,
kind
the
of rubbery stuff so that she's able to like, you know, repel stuff. So she actually has, so it helps in the story where like she's able to you know, to be prepared for different things, but also just, you know, it makes the clothes kind of more completely because it's cool kind of deal. And I don't know, it gives that feeling of this show is fun, number one, and then like, you know, you can think of whatever otherwise. I think it sets a very good tone.
Yeah, it's that's one of the aspects that I really like. It's part of the reason like I love Spider-Man so much as a character, like because there's always that scene of him like just running out to get changed. There's something that's so sort of amusing and endearing about that fact that like they have these superpowers, but then they're still like us. They still have to go and get changed. And then it also is definitely plays into the appeal of the show. Like if you watch the end credit scenes, there will be like it's like a little sequence where Caro gives like a little synopsis, like a brief synopsis of the stuff that happens in the episode, and then he like highlights her costume and points out something interesting about it. So that's definitely like a big part of the appeal.
I've pretty much watched
I actually
those without
skipped those.
fail.
I should probably
I've
go
pretty
back.
much not skipped one of those actually, just because they're very charming.
I haven't skipped the ED yet because the ED is great.
He's- oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, both the ED and the OP actually. I was you know, I think I had seen the OP a number of times in previous, you know, just in passerby, right? And I watched it for the first episode. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good, I guess. And then by like the 7th episode, I'm just jamming to it. It's just oh.
KO-I-SHI-TE-RU.
It's such a like I like the part in the OP when the singer says chance or chansu.
Chansu!
And you can see her
Ah!
like, her mouth like fluctuate whatever the hell chansu is, and it's like it was really cool that they did that. I just like
It's like-
how the OP feels very welcoming. Like, hey, you're about to like embark on this fun journey. Like, have fun.
Yeah. It's especially refreshing in a place where like a lot of landmark shows like this, like, you know, Cardcaptor Sakura is really up there in terms of name recognition, I guess, for a lot of the medium. And I think a lot of the shows that are up there in that echelon are kind of self-important, and or like a lot of new shows now that are trying to be those cornerstone shows kind of act a little self-important. Like I remember watching the first episode of Recreators, and there was just a lot of cinematic panning and you know and like I don't know, there was something about it that made it feel like there's some weight to this, like it's trying to make itself feel special. But there's something about the
Cough, cough, erase.
Oh, yeah, or erased or ReZero, you could say this, you know. But there's something that Cardcaptor Sakura is able to capture where it's not, it knows what it is, but it does it so genuine and very clever a lot of the time. It's ultimately very charming, which is why it's so well recognized and well respected among its peers in the medium, I think.
I will admit that I saved, like I mentioned in the group, but I have like over 50 pictures that I saved of the show. So many good faces, like Sakura herself is so expressive. It's like
Oh,
I have
yes.
to like pause. All right, new screenshot. Like her face is like this canvas, and like I guess the animator had a lot of fun, you know, experimenting and making her do all these like kooky and crazy things.
Yeah, no, the character acting is insane in almost every episode. I kind of felt like Dagakobo is known for like almost over animating all their expressions. I think people really mentioned that when they were watching Sasha Sanyo, but it's just crazy how how much effort they put into like we're on episode 10. I haven't seen like a downgrade at all.
Yeah, it's like the show progressively just keeps getting better and better with every episode, and like I'm surprised because usually with these like sort of formulaic episodic shows, I'm like, okay, is there more? But with this one, I'm like, I don't care. I want more of this. Like, give me more of this like goody stuff that makes my heart feel all warm and shit.
Well, I think the reason for that is it's deceptively episodic because it's a similar structure, but Sakura is consistently adding to her arsenal every episode, and she's re-implementing the villains she's caught into later episodes, like, and using them in very inventive ways and in ways you wouldn't expect, and she keeps building this arsenal every episode so that she's growing as a character, not just in power, but like, I don't know, maybe in experience, because she's been running into harrowing things that she has to overcome, like her mom, her whole issue with her mom and everything, and what she feels about that, her dealing with that. But I don't know. I think there's a really strong sense of progression despite the very similar, consistent episodic structure of the show. I think there is something of a clear sense of progression that you just kind of want to keep eating it. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep going after 10.
I mean, I agree wholeheartly. I mean, one of the things I love and what you guys were mentioning is that Sakura is so smart, and she's not so smart in a way that she's like overpowered and like she just like thinks through everything like Lelouch and Code Geass. She's smart, but she still is fallible, and we see her grow over that period. I think that's what really adds to the charm. And then when Xiao Lang shows up, she kind of like realizes that she doesn't really know everything, and there's a lot more to learn. And I think that's his appearance is an interesting dynamic as well, and I think it really made the series feel more fresh.
It gave it like this
that's
nice air of, I don't know, like it, like I mentioned earlier, everything came up to full circle. Okay, you have a rival now. Like that made me really excited because now we have somebody else that you can compete with, and I'm excited to see what more these two little ruffians come up with and do, because I like Xiao Lang. It's a weird name.
How the hell you say his name?
I know his first name is Lee.
Lee.
But yeah, I really like also his costume, whatever thing he wears. It's really cool, especially with the sword. I just like the character designs a lot in Cardcaptor Sakura overall. Even like the lesser known characters like Yuki, the random dude that like Sakura's
Random dude, you say? Is he though?
No, dude, he's so suspicious.
Yeah.
There's something up with this dude. He's too perfect.
Do you know he's the guy who voices him in the Japanese audio, the Japanese audio guy.
Kid. What is this?
That's the same voice as Shinji Ikari.
Really?
Yeah, it's nice and creepy and good. It's excellent.
One of the things I want to bring up, because you were talking about how the progression from each episode to episode feels really natural. And I think part of that is that they do a good job of linking things together. And I'm going to say this, and not to be like a downer on Western cartoons, I love them, but a lot of them tend to do this thing where they establish a status quo, and you really could watch the episodes in any order and get the same experience. It wouldn't make much of a difference. Whereas in the case of this show, there's a clear through line between like the material it touches on. So like in the introduction, we get introduced to the mechanic of the cards, and we get introduced to Kara, and they develop that a little bit, and then they go into the dynamic of her and her friend. They develop that a little bit, and then they do some teasing until the final reveal of some of her history and relationship with her mom, and develop that a little bit, and then they introduce a new rival, which is going to be like a new arc. And so even though it has that episodicness to it, and you technically could watch an episode out of context, watching it in context brings so much more to the experience.
Just as a small aside,
yeah.
Did you guys know that when it was broadcast in America, they altered the series and changed some things about it?
Yes, I was familiar with that. I thought that was just Canada. Like, I knew there was a
No,
Canada
it's
dub
a lot
that
of
was
North
apparently
America.
very well loved.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that point, Core, because they actually only aired 38 episodes. And they started the series at episode 8, and then they put episodes out of order because they wanted to like only have the most actiony ones.
Oh my goodness.
It's ridiculous.
That's very strange.
It's weird.
All I saw was a little bit of the dubbed opening, which is like, it's so bad.
Apparently
man.
people are
like,
nostalgic
it's like
for it.
describing
So
her powers.
I haven't seen it myself. I did check out the Aniplex dub, I guess is the other one. Like, there's a Canadian dub, and then there's an Aniplex one, and I guess it's Aniplex. It's not great. It's, yeah. I think it's one of those dubs that, like, they overpronounce the characters' names too much. Like, they pronounce it Sakura. I'm like, I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
The Latin American dub's pretty good. The OP, what they used to do back when I used to watch anime in Dominican Republic is that for the OP they would just sing it in Spanish the entire thing. It'd be the same song except in Spanish, and it's pretty good.
Yeah,
but I don't remember much of the actual show. That's the thing. But the OP is pretty good in Spanish. I'll say that. But I wanted to go back to that point where you mentioned, Cora, about the mom. That mom episode was so I learned so much about Sakura from that episode alone. It's like a little, like, I guess, little piece of her puzzle was revealed to me. A little, like, bit of her story and who she is as a person and why she is this way. It was a very touching episode. It really got to me. It was, especially at that final scene where the brother, I think that was her brother, sees like this angel who's his mom, and I'm like, what? How does this happen? It was bizarre, but I accepted it because I don't know. I guess in the context of the show, I'm like, you know what? Weird shit's always happening. I'll let this one slide because it makes sense, but I don't know how.
You say weird stuff is happening, and I'm like, that's one thing, and I'm weirdly noticing that, like, every time something weird happens, obviously the audience knows full well that it's a Clo card with these cards that Sakura is supposed to collect. And she's just like, oh, I wonder if it's a Clo card. I'm like, of course it's a Clo card. Do, like, ghosts exist in them, but then they aren't connected to Clo cards? Like, no, obviously it's a Clo card.
And then Tomoyo always come over and be like, hey, what about Clo cards? Could it be one of those?
I just wanted to say really quick, I think part of the reason maybe you didn't like it didn't immediately occur to you like in words, but for me the reason that scene works so well is because they establish earlier on when Sakura is first talking to Kero, he says, oh, you must have been born with natural magical ability of a high level to be able to do that. And so it's like, oh, so like of course the whole family, they're all from the same parents, so her brother just has natural magical ability himself, which gives him the ability to seize these things.
I mean, if you there's a moment where after the first time he's walking back to their house with Yukito, and he's telling him how he thinks that he is the one that made her scared of ghosts because he used to describe the ghost that he saw when he was a kid.
Yeah.
It's not only is it a great, emotional episode, it's a great like world building lore episode as well.
Yeah, I love the brother character so much. Like, it's a really effective balance between like that playful teasing, but also like the real like brotherly love.
Yeah, like only I can tease her kind of thing.
Oh, he's so chill too. Like he's not like an unreasonable guy. I think there could be.
He also looks like Akira from the.
Oh, stop! No. Come on now. This came out literally 20 years ago. Oh man, I have to say another refreshing thing. I mentioned Tomio earlier, but I love the fact that she knows, like by episode 2, that she has these powers and that's her mission and stuff, and like she's like her bro in this whole thing, and she's not like jealous at all. She's like, oh, this is so cool.
How down she is about this.
Yeah.
Oh, Of course, let's go.
She's also definitely a YouTuber before YouTube was a thing. Like if this was made like in 2006, she'd probably be like a YouTuber.
Yes. Oh my god, that'd be great.
Sakura's amazing.
Yeah.
expedition YouTube
Like and
series.
subscribe, guys.
Oh, she'd make it vlogs. So here we are today with Sakura. This is her new outfit that I made. Something like really elaborate.
Yeah, but I just love
All
that
the
she's
comments
in
are
on
like,
this
"Oh, these
secret.
special effects are great."
Yeah. Oh. I think the tension's been pretty good too. There hasn't been anything. I think what's refreshing about this is the characters that she's fighting are not necessarily malicious initially. Like they're threatening, but I think you have that element missing that feels very oppressive. Like there's no secret organization bad guy like in Sailor Moon or something, that's constantly creeping you out
Yeah.
or being evil or anything like that. It's a lot of the Clo cards are either acting out of self-defense or because they like to, and they find what they do fun. The one Clo card that just dances. But she's like,
Yeah,
but I thought that
love
was so
her
cute that
much.
like she's flooding the whole school grounds with petals, and all the girls are like, I'm gonna drown.
One of my favorite episodes from the 10 that we saw, it has to be the one with the jump, I think of the float car was
Yeah.
called, with the toys. That was such a cool episode. There were so many like interesting smears that I caught with my eye, especially where the toys is floating around the room. And that final part where he becomes a giant kaiju of like all the teddy bears, and then you're expecting like, oh god, is something big gonna happen? No, he just trips over. Like, oh, that was like such a, I like that they, even at high tension moments like that, they're quick to like throw a little joke in there, just for shits and giggles.
Well,
Yeah, for the most. Oh,
you can go ahead. That's
sorry.
fine.
For the most part, most of the cards are described like at worst as mischievous, and most of the time they're just sort of doing their thing. Like Woody, like it's just growing. That's what it does. It wasn't like really trying to be particularly hostile, and especially especially Flower. Like she literally was just raining flower petals because she wanted everybody to have a good time. So there's a nice sense like there is enough stakes to be like engaging, but it's never like taking itself too seriously, I feel.
Like I love how every card has its own personality. It makes it feel like, I don't know, really. I just like it. Like how Jump is just dumb and tried to do something he couldn't, and then like Caro like describing the card before the encounter each time is always great to listen to and see exactly like what's this card gonna do, how is it.
Because every Clo card's going to continue, right? It's going to continue being in the series in some fashion. I kind of expect all of these Clo cards to at least, to act for Sakura at least once. I don't even know how Wood is supposed to like do anything, or Rain, or Flower. But
Well, she used Woody in one of
Okay.
the episodes where she was chasing something to try and
Yeah.
grab it.
She captured Jump with it, I'm pretty sure.
oh sweet, yeah. But yeah, like
I
it.
did like the animation in the electric episode where the mainly the scenes where it was like hopping around the buildings and stuff. It looked really cool, and it was a really smart way of like using it, the medium, to the best of their advantage. It looked really interesting. And I mean, then again, I hate to say this, but it is Madhouse, so like, and especially the '90s, this is like their golden age of like making a lot of like high quality stuff. And I do like all the cool, like, I guess, I don't know how to call them, the animations where she pretty much uses her powers with the staff, like she spins it around.
Oh, like the sequences, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there's that one card sequence is so great. Like every single time I watch it, I love it. Where she puts the card up and she turns it and her hair is like blowing and
Yes. I also like, I'm pretty sure you guys notice this too. Whenever she like uses one of the cards and like the staff hits the card, I swear it's like an AT field. And I was like, oh shit, she's hitting the AT field. All right, I see where this is going.
And I love I mean, first off, like it's genius that like one of the first, I think the first card she gets is
Yeah.
fly. Like it makes perfect sense because the flying scenes in this show are so gorgeous. Like it makes me wish I could fly. It's like this is up there with like the Ghibli level flight scenes where it's like you're like just blown away by the way they convey the movement in the
It
sky.
feels very free and like I think it represents who she is as a character, a very carefree person. Doesn't really let many things like bring her down. She kind of just gets kicked down on the ground, gets back up, and tries it again with a giant smile on her face because that's who Sakura is.
Yeah, they do a great job of demonstrating why she has like hero qualities. You know, like she reminded me a lot of Deku and Inuyashiki actually, where like when someone's in trouble or someone's like struggling, their first reaction, like no question, is just to help them because they're just like that's what you do. Like it's never like when she sees the toy person struggling to open up their store, she's never like, oh, maybe if I just ignore them, it's not my problem. She just immediately runs over and tries to help her, even though she's like about to go to school and all that. So
And there's some people that find that tired or find that really like tropey or cliche, and it's more of a matter that they don't find it as refreshing as you'd want it to be, because I mean you'd want that to see it. You want to see that in other people. That's a good quality. It's not. I don't know why you would want anything different. I guess sometimes it's good for being a character drama, but again, it works really well for this show because they're trying to establish this very comfy atmosphere that everything's going to work out. Things could happen, and twists can happen, but the character is not gonna you're not gonna doubt Sakura at any point.
And they also they sell it really well. Like, even in outside the scenes where she's like being helpful, she has a generally very kind persona. So it's not like it feels like she's acting out of character when every time something comes up, she's super down to help. It feels very natural. And the one point I had been meaning to bring up earlier, but it slipped my mind, was that in regards to like the fight scenes and stuff, it was really cool how she would utilize the older cards, but also the fact that so much of it relies on her own abilities. Like not just her intellect, but also like the fact that she's good at sports, like that comes into play. Like she has to be athletic. Like a lot of her capturing the cards involves her like running around to try and get a grasp of the situation.
I noticed that too, and that one scene, I forget which episode it was, but they were doing some sort of like leapfrog sport, and I wasn't aware that she was like really good at sports, and they call her name, and she's like, "Oh, I forgot it's my name," and she runs and like does it. I'm like, "Holy crap!" She's like really good at doing like these aerobatic like tricks and shit. So it goes to show that even that sort of seeps into her, I guess, magical girl alter ego.
Yeah, like she's capable. She's very capable. We even see that before she has the powers in episode 1. The fact that she roller skates when she's in 4th grade, she like rollerblades to school, like that level of maturity, being able to just be at the house and clean the house while the dad and the brother are away and everything. There's a level of maturity to her, but she's also just like not a stoic badass, I guess, where like she's not perfect. She gets scared very, very easily. I think she's freaked out to almost every Clo card in some fashion, so far. And yeah, she gets kind of embarrassed, and that's all the qualities of very, very strong, good character, that there's all different facets to her, and there's not one consistent blanket trait to her, She's very multifaceted.
Yeah, oftentimes a problem I have with like shows of this nature is that they're sort of just like this average kid, whatever, and then like this like amazing power comes down from the skies upon them, and suddenly they're like amazing at everything, like when it comes to like fighting bad guys, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. Whereas in Sakura's case, like half the show is her like running away and figuring stuff out as she goes along. And like the core premise of the show anyways revolves around a mistake that she made, which is just like really sells it.
Absolutely.
A good episode where that happens is that same one with the teddy bears. I remember Keto was telling her, "Okay, capture him now," and she was like, talking to him and wasting time. And she turns around, and that it gives the jump enough time to transform into the giant kaiju, because she had captured him already with the wood claw card, but she wasted time talking, and then consequences happen. So I like that her mistakes are, no matter how small it may be, there's always a consequence to them, and it makes the show feel somewhat like grounded in reality, but not. And I appreciate that a lot, because a lot of the times your main character will make the biggest mistake ever, and they will always come in triumphant. They'll figure out some sort of sneaky way, or it won't even affect the enemy.
The power of friendship.
The power of friendship always wins in the end.
Especially with all the wins in the end, right? She's going to ultimately win the Clo card, or capture it, but I wasn't sure of how half the time. Like I really love the concept, because you see what she can do with her powers, because you've seen all the things that she's captured before. So when the Shadow thing was happening, I'm like, when she was trying to capture Shadow in the second episode, I'm like, how is she supposed to do this with Fly and Windy? And I'm like, how are you supposed to trap shadows? How is this supposed to work? And there's that level of engagement with the audience where they present to you this Clo card, and you're like, okay, given what we know and what we have, how can Sakura defeat this thing? And it surprises
you're kind
you.
of like getting this like mental map in your head, and you're just trying to link the different cards together and think about synergies.
Right.
And
Or
stuff.
the way
Right,
she
and
captured Whisper using the Shadow card, like that was just like
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, whoa, that's brilliant. It
Oh,
almost
yeah.
has like elements of like mystery to it, because a lot of the way she defeats it, it's very rare. It's never like a head-on like battle. It's usually like use this ability, and it either is gonna like be effective or it's not, and then she'll either
It
she'll
is,
either win,
yeah,
or she'll
definitely.
have to run away, and she'll literally come back like another day. Like there's
And what's
plenty of
great too
time
is
passing.
it's not just the cards that she has to use. She uses the environment, like the way she captures Watery, and she, there's other outside forces that help her. Like the way she ends up capturing Shadow was through the help of Tomoyo turning the lights on, which she wasn't able to do because she's busy fighting it. So like there's a lot of different things that the show has presented so far in these 10 episodes, that there's multiple ways to solve these problems. And to capture these monsters.
The water Clo card. I remember she realized, oh, my brother works here. I can just bring the water to the giant freezer and use wind to pretty much freeze the Clo card intact. And that was pretty smart.
Yeah, which is
Because,
prior
like
information.
usual, every other show would just make it into a giant bombastic battle, and they'll just say, okay, she beat it because she's strong and she has the power, whatever. This one is kind of like, no, she'll use her environment, use from what she knows already. My brother works in this place. There's a giant freezer. That's where he used to work in. I'll bring the enemy there and freeze it with one of the cards that I have. It's very smart, and it uses, her arsenal to its advantage, because I guess the show wants you to remember, oh, she has this card, she has this other card. So I like that it feels very
She has yet to Bruce force it. She has yet to just beat it through sheer force, which is very impressive.
And I appreciate that a lot, because sometimes these episodic shows do end up just doing that all the time. And I'm so happy that this one, and these 10 episodes that I've seen, it hasn't done that.
Yeah, or the same attack works every time, right? Where they have like a final attack and they've just used the same attack consistently. It's a very big trope that the series is very capable of dodging.
And part of what sort of separates it from like a battle show is that oftentimes the episodes are more focused on the emotional arc, either of like one of our main characters or the characters they introduce. I mean, I personally found the episode 10, the last episode we watched, like, I couldn't think of like a better episode to like close out that session with. It was pretty affecting. It was like a really emotional episode, and the Clo card um was really not, didn't play like a big role as like any type of opponent whatsoever. It more gave us this great like scene, like the seeing all the flower petals coming down from the sky was just like a really beautiful shot, and it really helped heighten
Yeah.
the emotions of the episode. Yeah.
Almost
Yeah.
cinematic in a way.
I think one thing that I'm a little worried about after seeing episode 10 was kind of, it was starting to peek into the familial dramas with her dad and his past relationship with Tomio's mom. And I think that it's going to get into that more and more as the show goes on, and I'm a little worried about it because, I don't know, I like this being very comfy and very, centered around Sakura and her collecting these cards, and not necessarily a little like overblown drama, I guess. I would kind of prefer if it was like, if it kind of kept to this, even if it comes kind of stale later. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm worried that it will get bogged down in over dramatic stuff, and then, like we were saying earlier, it's not taking itself too seriously right now because, it, for various reasons. But I'm worried it might take itself too seriously later, and it might still be good. It might still be able to pull it off, but I'm a little worried. I'm a little weary of that, I guess.
I have faith that it will be well executed. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, not even just spoilers, but like, I mean, you scroll down on, you like go to Crunchyroll, and the first thing you see are like the title, like screen caps for like episode 70. So it's like I sort of have a vague sensation of the direction the show is heading towards, and there's definitely gonna be a focus on love that will grow more and more as it progresses. But I think I have faith that it's going to be done well, because it's so important to Sakura's growth as like, an adolescent. That's a big part of your developing, coming into maturity, and especially it's a big dynamic within the show. Like, it's very clearly an intentional theme, because we have not only the relationship of her mother and her father, where he was a teacher who came to school, and he fell in love with this 16-year-old high school student. Like, they fell in love with each other and got married. Not only you have that, but then you also have her friend Yuki, I think that's her name, who has feelings for their teacher, and then you have Sakura, who has feelings for Tomio. So it's like, there's this clear dynamic going on between like love, between across age, and just love in general, that they're trying to explore, that I think has room to be pretty interesting.
You're right, and especially because, I mean, this show is not necessarily known for having a going down in quality over the course of the show. It's largely renowned pretty well to be consistent overall. I mean, I haven't heard anything of it going down later. I just think in terms of the direction, like of what I would like to see as an audience member, I guess, like drama is cool. We'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching more, definitely.
No, definitely. I think we all are.
I'm just curious about freaking the love interest, Yuki. Tell me this guy eats like 5 meals in like one sitting. I'm still hungry. Like, I don't know. When they first introduced him, I'm like, something's off about this guy. How come he can like eat all this food and he's like good at everything? And he's like this, hi, how are you? Like, has like this super chill like personality.
Oh, how are
I'm like,
you?
something's wrong with this guy.
He
He has this very
sus.
creepy. He has a very Shinji voice,
Yeah, particularly that scene where she has the foreboding dream, and she's like walking with him, and there's just like the way he's talking, and he like brings up the exact stuff she was thinking about, and she's like, "What's going on?" And then of course he closes it out with like a thing about about food, and it's like, and she's like, "Oh, it's just regular old Yukito," but there's definitely something going on there. Like, it's pretty clear. That's one of the things I really like about the show is like it can establish these sort of like uncomfortable like atmospheres, or like the sensation that there's something like a little bit off without being blunt about it, like in the sword episode where she's with her friend and her friend puts on the amulet that turns out to be a claw card. Like before they reveal that it's sword, like the direction just sort of shifts, and we get these like close up cuts of like her legs moving in like a sort of stilted fashion, and the camera becomes really jumpy, like it's cutting between stuff pretty fast, and I'm like, is there something like going on that's wrong? And then they make the reveal, and it like worked really really well.
Yes.
One thing that's a bit off topic that I don't know, I've been like dying to mention is the art direction overall in the entire show, mainly the backgrounds. These backgrounds are so like detailed and like they look so well made, and they're bright and very colorful. I haven't seen a dull color in this show, and if it's at nighttime, it's usually like covered in blues or like purples. The show is very colorful and it feels so sweet, like fucking candy. Like I can like just take a bite of it. It's like
Like fucking candy. Num num. It's me with this show, man. These 10 episodes went down so quick. Oh, it was delicious.
I want to go to that ice cream shop, that ham ice cream shop that they went to.
Oh yeah, this show is maximum adorbs. I even the like the character designs I really really like. I'll admit, you know, the guys' chins aren't really doing it for me, but even the extra long legs I kind of like. I really like that like slenderness they have, and it sort of accentuates the like smallness of the younger characters.
The funny thing about the like older guys is that I've noticed that like why is the brother and dad so damn tall? Like, they seem like they're massive, and like I like that idea that the boys or the older people look taller and like super slender, because the girls and the little kids aren't supposed to look like that. They're supposed to look all cutesy and stuff. And at first I was like, man, this looks kind of weird. Like, what's going on? But I accepted it. I saw it as like, oh, maybe that's just. I guess the show is shown through Sakura's point of view, and she probably views her brother and dad as these like tall figures that she looks up to or something. I don't know. Some sort of symbolism. Who knows?
Yeah, could be. Yeah, it could.
There's
could be.
definitely that sense of dynamic between like younger and older, like, and the limitations that come with that. But yeah, overall, definitely a very, very stellar show, both character-wise and just visual-wise, and also music-wise, which we didn't really talk about much. You mentioned it briefly, and I mean, usually I have a lot to say about music, but it's just like, all of it is just great. It's just really good. I love all the themes and the way it conveys the emotions, and it's done in the way where it really like matches the scenes, like the way the music like swells and comes down is built to match the tension of the moment. It's great. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's appropriate.
Very cinematic. Like the music feels like when I first saw the first episode and I heard that music when she was fighting the claw card, I'm like, damn, this feels like movie budget like type of music. It's very very nice sounding and orchestral, and it feels so. I hate using this word because it's so overused, but it feels very epic.
Yeah.
Like you're on this grand adventure with this girl and this little small beast.
And the themes are really memorable. Like the victory theme, I can like hear it in my head like right now.
But it's also not overpowering, which I appreciate. I think there's I'm watching this other show that, you know, on its own has a pretty good soundtrack, but I think they overplay it a lot. You know, like they have their go-to tracks for these certain moments. But there isn't anything about Sakura's OST that feels overplayed or a little too like, I don't know, just overplayed, I guess. I think it's done. I think it's implemented very tastefully, as well as being an overall appropriate themes for the
Yeah.
show.
I think like part of it is that like they implement it well. Like even in the scene, like the victory song with the swelling strings, it's like that only comes in like right as she's using her power, and it's mostly the visuals that are doing the work. So it's not like it's like distracting you from the narrative. Like we already know what's happening, and it's just like take in the visuals and listen to the music. But then also that the music is just like so great that it can almost do no harm. Like I mean, the opening and ending are fantastic. I especially love like I could listen to those opening and ending like a million times and I would never get sick of them. It's
And
just it's
that's,
so
I mean,
good.
it's weird. I usually, when I find a show that has an opening that I want to hear every time I watch the show, that's how I usually determine, okay, maybe this might be like a favorite show of mine. I might like fall in love with it years later. Like in especially the OP, it's so infectious. Like I can play it and I'm already like super like happy to like, oh, I'm watching this show. Oh, this is fun. And the ED is such a great way to like
Oh, your mic cut out a little bit there at the end.
screw that. I'm gonna give you guys like some like pop in, very like danceable
The
ED song.
I think Cardcaptor right now for me is the complete
Yeah.
package. Everything: music, OST, OPED, animation. I just hope I just want to watch
yeah,
more.
for sure.
I think it's like peak cell animation because I think it came out like what late '90s and ended around the early 2000s.
Yeah, like
Do you
1998
think? Do you
around.
think around the 2000, like when they crossed that threshold, that at any point later in the production they switched to digital? I doubt they did.
I don't think so.
I think they would keep
Yeah.
it consistent.
Oh man, but that. Oh.
What's really interesting, I just remembered now that you mentioned X earlier, another Clamp property that was also made by Madhouse. So maybe since that movie had, I guess, the staff had a good relationship with the production studio of Madhouse, they were like, hey, you guys want to adapt this other series we have with the magical girls and stuff? Maybe that sort of relationship kind of made them more confident. Hey, maybe we'll give it a shot. Because I don't see any other studio tackling this. Maybe Dean, and that would have been a dark timeline.
Dean.
A really dark timeline.
Don't be
So
mean to
apparently,
Dean.
from what I heard, the Clear Card arc,
And they
made
what's airing right
Read or
now.
Die.
They also made the Junji Ito collection. I think that's what it's called.
Okay, we're getting a little off
So
topic.
interesting point that I've heard, and I didn't confirm for myself, but the Clear Card arc largely has the exact same staff. Like they got the
Yeah, I
same
heard
voice
about that.
actors, they got the same everybody. Like everybody's back, and they're pretty much trying to recreate what the '90s show looks like, and apparently it succeeds for the most part. It's like just Cardcaptor Sakura and 16:9 digital, you know, which is very, very interesting. I'm very
Yeah,
looking forward to seeing that.
Maybe if we all get caught up, we'll do a spin-off podcast talking about Clear Card.
That sounds great.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's
I'm very much looking forward.
running about time to wrap things up. So I think we can just close it out with some final thoughts. Beam Burst, you wanna share your 2 cents?
The show sucks. Don't watch it. No, I'm just kidding. I think
That being said, I hated it.
honestly, I would put this in a list of shows that I say are shows that you should watch sometime in your whenever you're free as like as an anime fan or want someone that wants to see something old. I think this is a really good show that you could try out, even for someone that's never seen anime. I think this is a really good starting point, and it's a very very good starting point for anybody that's never seen any shows because it's very it feels Western at times with how episodic it is, but it's not fully episodic. And I feel like it's a great starting point for anybody that wants to watch something, out of the ordinary. Watch it. It's good. You feel happy and shit.
Yeah. Kamimashita, you wanna?
Yeah, so the whole reason for this podcast in the first place, for me at least, was to try to like revisit shows that I may have, not given enough credit back in the day, or just I'm not aware of. And this is one of the prime examples of why it's important to go back and watch old anime, because this is great. It's like a mix between like Jackie Chan Adventures, Dragon Ball Z, Madoka Magica, and it works so well. If you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, go watch it now.
And I'll jump in with my thoughts. I'll say like when I started watching this, I started like last week. To be honest, been a pretty rough day. And then I threw this on, and it was like right from like the first line of the opening, I was like instantly bliss. It's a really satisfying show to watch. And it's like you said, it's like the full package. It has just everything I want from a show, and if I were to like draw some sort of comparison, I'd say it sort of captures the aesthetic sensibilities that I love about like Arya, but then also has this much more fleshed out main character that you can follow their arc, that makes it really satisfying. So I really enjoy that. Shabes, you want to give the closing thoughts?
Yeah, and also to Kamimashita's point about it's important to watch older anime, but I think it's also important to be watching the ones that started these, that do the genres of Mahou Shoujo or Mecha or Slice of Life. You look at the people that really pioneered it, the ones that do it straight and do it really well, before you can start appreciating when they deconstruct it or try to make a twist on it. No dig on Doki Doki Literature Club, but I feel like a lot of people were appreciating that game without having a good understanding of what visual novels are. Like how many of those people actually played a visual novel before? Like they probably have a good understanding of what it is. Like it's not hard to understand what a Magical Girl series is. It's very easy to explain. But have you actually experienced something like that? Like something that plays it totally straight and does it so effectively like this show? I think this is a testament to not only watching the classics and the old that you might not have appreciated, but just understanding that these are important shows for a reason, and these are something worth dissecting and taking spins on, because the original product is just so interesting, I guess. Very high marks with Cardcaptor Sakura. It's definitely one of the better ones out there. Yeah, I love it. Can't wait to watch more of it.
Thank you. And thank you, the viewer, for watching. If you want to tune in next time, we're going to be discussing the Area 88 OVAs, if I can pronounce things correctly.
The original.
Yes.
I want some OVOs.
Part of a balanced breakfast. But thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and continue to watch, hopefully. And we'll see you all
Bye-bye.
next time. Adieu.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.